All right, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive Weekly Development Call Update live stream. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we update on our progress from the previous week and plan out the coming week. Oh,
Little background.
yeah. Our mission here at Brain Drive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at Brain Drive.
And I'm Dave Jones, and I handle the technical operations side here at BrainDrive.
BrainDrive is our MIT licensed user-owned AI system. You can see it here on the screen. It runs locally on your own computer. And we built this around one goal in mind, which is helping you define and reach your goals across every area of your life. So we have this interview, align, build, and execute loop that BrainDrive is built around. So it kicks off with an interview where it interviews you on what you'd like to accomplish, to create a spec to align on what success looks like for both you and the AI, so that you can then create a plan for reaching your goals. And then you have that loop as you execute, where you keep coming back around and refining. And so this is a great process for pairing with AI to do coding, which is kind of where everyone's focused on this right now. But this same process of defining what success looks like, creating a plan around that, can work well for any area of your life. And so we've chosen these four areas as sort of what we believe are the foundation of a successful life. But we don't force these on you. You can delete them, you can add more, whatever you want to do, and you just follow the same process for defining your and reaching your goals across any area of your life. You can run the brain drive model, which is a cloud-based model that we choose for you based on the best optimization of cost, performance, and speed. You can use OpenRouter, which offers 400 cloud AI models, or you can use Ollama, which allows you to run any open source model locally on your computer that your computer is powerful enough to run, free of charge and with complete privacy. You don't even need an internet connection to do that. We also have backups to GitHub and the ability to migrate over to another computer, or if you host this in the cloud, to whatever cloud host that you choose. So that's a little bit about BrainDrive. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dave to give us the development progress update from last week.
Well, as we said last week, it was going to be a little boring last week, but we were doing a lot of things in the background. And this week kind of demonstrates all of that as it comes together. Let me go ahead and flip around to sharing. There we go. And we are going to go with a full monitor this week so that we can actually take it all in one time. So here we have our change log of the things that we were able to accomplish this week. And I say able because not all, I didn't get as far as I really wanted to on some things. But hey, that leaves us stuff for next week when it comes down to it. So let's see. We started delving in on the user being able to offer context. We spoke about that for a few weeks, and we went right into finance, which would have the most context being able to be provided really when it comes down to it. And so you would have bank statements, you would have credit card statements, you have investment statements, and all of that being able to put it in finance. So rather than have to go through by hand or by voice, giving it each line, you give it the entire statement that you would normally read, and then it turns that into whatever kind of report you want. Right now, we do have it focused on a budget, but we do see that changing and evolving over time. And right while mine's not set up for it, but we'll come into here, let's see, and you can see it demonstrated here. And this is a new user just installed, and they have the agent file, and now we're expanding into the budget, which goes into a very short, this is what the instructions are for handling a budget. We go into the index, which actually goes through as these are the files that are available. And this part needs to be updated a little bit to fall in sync, but it's kind of all coming together. Dave offered me some information that he put together over the weekend because we're kind of comparing how we're going about it and finding that sweet spot in the middle of where the AI plays ball exactly how we want it to, and for whatever the user wants to do after that. And then of
Yeah,
course you
so
have,
this is a pretty big deal because we're moving from our align and then plan,
yep,
right? So, sort of defining those goals, creating a plan to reach those goals into the execution. So, creating a budget, is likely something that pretty much everyone's going to
yep,
want to do as they set goals for their finances. This is our first foray into helping you do that, right?
yep.
Your brain drive partnering with your AI to create the budget and then to even do things like compare and how did my spending do this month and those types of things. So this is a big deal because we're moving into that execute phase for the first time. And then the second reason why it's a big deal is Dave has added document processing into BrainDrive for this particular application, creating the budget and uploading your
Yep.
statements. But Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's going to work for a lot of
Yeah.
different types of
Yeah, it wasn't
documents.
exclusive to finance. Finance was just the first entity to take advantage of it.
So I would say this is, two big leaps for
Yep.
BrainDrive capabilities. We're going to have to refine these and polish them, but, a big step towards, helping you define and reach your goals with your BrainDrive.
And there's a third one caught in here, which I in my head I label as probably like LLM engineering, because this is where it's like none of this was coded in. So that the instructions you see, there's no black magic going in the background. If you decide that you want to budget differently than the known plan or how we put this together, it's in black and white, it's in English. You can go in and you can tinker with it. And that's why it's like in my head, I label this as LLM engineering because it's like we're getting away from code completely, not just half and half or something like that. It's like, English, you can get in there and play with it.
Which is awesome because that allows you to really understand what's happening within your brain drive as an owner without having to be a developer.
Yep. Then the next big thing we added last week or this week, if you go to settings now and you are installed on the desktop version, you would have a new tab. And this would allow you to have browser access while having the desktop installed. Dave's seeing this for the first time, by the way.
Yeah.
This is his little Christmas. Wait, hold on. I'll just make this a little bigger, and so that we can see it clearly. And this is what it looks like. Mine is turned on. And what this enables you to do is you can have the desktop version installed. And if you're like me or Dave, you wander your house with your phone, I have multiple computers. I don't want to have multiple memories, though. And this allows you to install in one place and then you can access it from anywhere. And if you leverage Tailscale or Cloudflare Tunnel, suddenly you can be anywhere in the world accessing your brain drive at home with your memories as they are there.
Yeah, so originally when we launched BrainDrive, and we still have this,
Mhm.
is we were going with the development version of BrainDrive running in Docker. And so everything was browser based. But the issue is, we really want BrainDrive to be accessible for anyone, regardless of technical experience. And just that little jump of, okay, what's Docker and installing that, and I
Yep.
have to go to the terminal and run a command, not the best user experience for what we refer to as our Katie Carter persona, which is the non-technical person that wants to partner with AI to improve their life. And so Dave built a desktop app that works just like any other Mac or Windows desktop app. You
Mhm.
download it onto your computer, you pop open the install file, and you're off to the races.
Yep.
But what we lost with that was the browser
Yep.
access. And if you wanted to do browser based with your brain drive, you had to have a separate brain drive, which would
Yep.
separate out all of your memory. And that is where all the compounding benefits come from of your AI system, your brain drive getting to know you better and better the more you use it. So, what Dave did is he added the browser access to the desktop version, which now you can access it from any browser.
Yep.
And that's really cool because if you have, like Dave was talking about, Tailscale or Cloudflare tunnels, you can reach your local computer and be out on your phone and talking to your computer and your brain drive via the browser. So this takes us from 0 to 1 in terms of mobile access for brain drive. And I'll put another lesson now
Yep.
in the course on the forum about how to set up Tailscale to do this. It's super simple and that gets you your brain drive on your phone. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, and there are some inherent little protections that are going on in this play. And when this comes into existence, it's one, you only can access the browser access tab when you're in desktop mode. So if somebody accidentally connects to yours from a browser, they can't change your security settings of that nature or anything like that. You're protected in that regard. And what's default is the fact of if you are already logged in, you have your memory, it doesn't allow anybody to come in and build a second account on you or on piggyback on your stuff. You're still protected by your password, of course. So if you put in password, your mileage will vary. So I would suggest something a little more complicated than that.
Right. So if if someone, but someone in order to get into your brain drive would have to have your Tailscale link
Yep.
and your username and password in order to do that. And then on top, even if that happened, it sounds like you have some additional protections
Yeah,
built
they
in.
can't. Yeah, exactly. Number one, you have to get there's no second account in BrainDrive. We did this on purpose, so there's only one set of memory. It's yours. So as soon as they get there, it won't let them create an account arbitrarily. They have to get past your password, and even if somehow they get all the way through there, they can't get in and change the network settings of browser access to be able to do more or do less or screw with you in any way. It's just simply not exposed on that environment. In fact, we see it here. This is the desktop version. We will slide down here. This is yeah, this is my version that's connected to the desktop. And as you can see, it's just simply not available on this. And then if we go to the other one, and this is my other computer. So as you can see, they look the same no matter how you accessed it. Uh,
And
and
is this, you have to turn this on, or how do you set this
Nope,
up?
this comes default being off, which is intentional. So if you've installed it, you would simply come here, go to community settings, you would have this tab and it would be like this. And it would not show, it would show like your private network and stuff like that, but that turns it off immediately. And this different information all populates once I turn it on for real for the first time. You can select the port if you desire. It does have a little fallback range so that if for some reason this port was actually locked up, it would actually look for one of the other ones and set it up for you. And then it handles the firewall issues. If you have like Windows firewall set up, it'll automatically get you to access Node and then BrainDrive, which are the two permissions that would be necessary. So it just pops up right for you. Um, but yeah, it comes default as off though, so that you have to turn it on.
This is awesome.
So
So document processing, our
it,
first app, and now mobile
Yep.
access.
This is only for Windows right now. This week, Mac will get turned on. I was going to go for Mac yesterday, but I was like, I'm just biting too much of the Apple and I'm going to screw two things up. So I was like, let me nail the UX on the settings part first, according to our docs and stuff like that, and get that right. And then I can turn around this week and get the Mac done, which was already on the our horizon to get done anyways. So that's why let's just focus on one thing. Let's get that right, and then we'll move forward. Um, let's see, we had some dependency things we cleared up this week as well. Dependabot doing his little job and saying, hey, don't be lazy. And that just helps us keep the security tightened up. Let's see anything else. Yep, dependency stuff. Dependency stuff. Um,
Can we make sure that we get the website and community forums added to our run this week?
yeah, that's when you gave that to me last week, I was knee deep in everything I was doing, and it was like it's on my list for this week of going through because we have the website, which hey, we control the code for lack of better words, but we need to keep it updated, and a few other little things. So that'll just go into the Monday process of as well.
So tomorrow, the website
Yeah.
and the forum should be taken care of. Or if there's
Yep.
any questions on that, you can just reach out to me.
Yep, exactly what I figured as well. But other than that, it was pretty clean week as far as I was concerned. I think the big work is going to come this week because we're going to really get into the testing harness as we worked on that last week. And this is a secondary system to BrainDrive that allows us, as we're playing with these prompts, building these app systems that are utilizing prompts. One of the key things is too is A, are the prompts behaving as we expect, not just one time, but 10 times, 20 times. And then on the flip side of that, when we make those changes, did we affect functionality that we already had existing? And so I built a test harness that uses Playwright, and it goes through from installing from a clone directory and through creating a new user, getting the provider right, putting the key in. And so every time if we need to test that functionality, we can at a blink. And one of the key things is we have AI, so it doesn't take up developer time. It should be just hey, let's do a test run and do it. And one of the things how we used it last week was we have been using Haiku 4.5, and we found that it was not able to handle all of the budget instructions that we were providing, and it was always getting lost when building reports, losing whether something was categorized as something specific, or sometimes a dollar amount would be wrong. And if you're doing budgets, little things like that could be the difference between success and failure. So we had to play with other models, and we really quickly, because of the test harness, just pointed at it and said, hey, we're going to take the top five. I think we did 6 or 7 models and run it through BrainDrive and see which one gave us the best results. And then surprisingly, Gemini 3.5 Flash. Or you can go for the more expensive model, which was OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.5. They were the only ones that were able to accurately every time handle the instructions, and create the results that we wanted to see. Uh,
And GPT 3.5 Flash is pretty good from a input and output token cost perspective as
yep.
well.
Yeah, it's a third of the cost of 5.5. So that as far as the user go. And the one thing we haven't checked, but this will allow us now, is a little kind of look in the local spheres, because I'm kind of curious, given the fact of Gemini did that well, what would Gemma 4 do? And will probably be at the 30 or the 29, 31 parameter size. But if it can run locally, that'll just be, a thing for people to look at, because there is an entire crew that have hardware of that nature. So if we can just say, hey, you can run it, you will need that. It'll be nice to define those parameters for people looking forward, because we do want to also be a locally owned system that people can run as they want. And then for the rest of the planet, which is a lot of them, they don't have the hardware. And that's where we're looking at being able to run and host this in many different ways.
All right, great. You want to stop sharing for a minute?
Yep. There we go.
Okay, so like I said, like we said at the beginning of the call, we're moving from,
Yep.
interview, align, plan and into execute.
Yep.
And we want to have a system or have a framework for how we think about these things, if possible,
Yep.
so that it's easy for the brain drive owner to understand what's happening. It's easy for the AI to
Yep.
understand what's happening, and it's easy for the brain drive core maintainers and eventually other developers and everything to plan and build brain drive,
Yep.
right? And so Dave put together a working budget app, basically, within BrainDrive that's all natural language based.
Yep.
And so I think the one thing that we're feeling more and more confident of is we can go a really long way now because we have AI with natural language and not have to deterministically program things in, which is a big advantage for the non-developers among us because we can actually look at the natural
Yep.
language that's within these files that drive the behavior of our brain drives and understand what's happening and eventually customize and maybe even build our own
Yep.
applications using natural language. So this is another reason why it's important um, to have a structured way of thinking about this. Another thing that, I think both of us started to think about as we saw the budget app come together is, okay, well, there's going to be more, right? You're going to want your portfolio and your finances, you're going to want a bunch of different things, right?
You could have crypto going.
Yeah. And so, the composability
Yep.
and extensibility of these applications, uh, you know, if we have a structure for doing that, then these things become like a Lego set
Yep.
where you can pair any Lego together regardless of who's built it, and it'll fit together and it'll work in your brain drive. Versus if we don't have a structure, it's like they may or may not fit together. There's no standards around it.
And reproducing results because we have a system that works. Now we can take what we learn from this, we have it in a guide, and the AI has not only that guide to follow, but also an example. And that makes it so easy for it to look at both this is how I develop new, this is how it's already worked. Now go do a third thing that you were never intended to do. But it's not like brand new. It has a lot of instructions to draw from. And that's what the AI is really good. Grabbing out a pattern, finding it, and then mutating it into whatever you desire to happen.
Right. And this allows the vibe coders among us to vibe code very successfully because the AI has a very specific framework that it's following. And even if in the future people don't understand quite what that framework is, they do understand what they want. And we even have a process for defining that, our interview
Yep.
spec and build plan process. And then the AI can code within the framework and the standards
Yep.
that the BrainDrive team has developed. Right.
Yep.
So this is a really big deal. I don't, I think both of us were like, this is going to be a big deal, but it's like an even bigger deal as we
Because
got into this.
as you know, me being me and you being you, you wanted less code. Me as a coder, I always want more code, but just by nature, whether I like it or not. And so for us to find a way for this to, the only code involved was basically, hey, you're going to be uploading documents. Here's where it's going to go and making sure that if you're in finance or fitness, it knows how to behave. But after that, it's all prompt driven.
Right. Okay. So now we need to formalize this into a structure, a process, a set of standards.
Yep.
Right. And I think at this stage, it's less about does this structure actually work for this specific application, but
Yeah.
does this structure make sense to
Yep.
us,
Yep.
right? Is there anything that's glaring that's a problem with it? And if you and I are aligned and anyone else who wants to participate on, okay, yeah, we can't find any, before we build on this, we can't find any obvious holes in it, then it's like the rough draft,
Yep.
right? And we're iterating, therefore, going forward around a structure, right? And that does, so the structure may change, but we're always anchoring back. Okay, this is what we thought, we were wrong about this. We need to change this. How does that change the structure? And we aren't just making changes to the application
Yeah.
without thinking about the structure.
Yep.
So
Because we
that's
want
where
to
I think,
reproduce.
yeah, that's where I think we're at right now
Yeah.
is we need to define the rough draft of this structure. And we have a forum thread in the community forums where Dave and I have been going back and forth with drafts of this structure. Okay. So instead of spending an hour going through the whole thing, I had the AI put together just a little 10 slide discussion piece. And I want to see if we can give this a try as a way to go through these
Yep.
things. Okay, so we're calling this the brain drive memory architecture, which also means right now this is really focused around the interview spec, build, execute process,
Mhm.
but we'll also have to add in conversation history, how are we handling things like vector databases in the future and blah 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 blah. But for now, I think this is what's needed, right?
And this is a point when I thought about what we were doing over the weekend, and it was like that. Right now, it's like there's that huge conversation over markdown files as your memory and getting out of databases and other mystery objects like that. This is that other half that nobody else is talking about is using prompts in plain English in your memory to drive the application.
Right.
Everybody's right now still with this memory thing, all code. It's
Right.
like,
And this
nope.
is why we define your memory as everything that makes the AI system personalized to
Yep.
you. And especially as you customize these things, the
Yep.
code becomes one of those things that's personalized to you. And so it should live in your memory.
Yep.
All right. So everything that we do within BrainDrive, it should help the BrainDrive owner define and reach their goals, right? We want this to be a system that helps you partner with AI to be more successful across all the areas of your life that matter to you, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And as Dave's been talking about, this memory architecture needs to serve two audiences. One is the brain drive owner.
Hmm.
They should be able to understand what's happening and understand their brain drive by looking at this architecture. It should be decipherable to them, right? They should be able to understand it.
Yep.
And then there's the AI agent that's working on the brain drive owner's behalf, that's doing the work, that needs to navigate it, that has to do everything that it needs to do. So whenever we're thinking about this architecture and building apps on it or improving our interview spec, plan process, we should always be keeping these two audiences in mind. Okay. And for internal purposes, when we're talking about building on BrainDrive, and this is a developer call, I think we really have a five-stage process here, which is the first thing that needs to happen with this architecture when a BrainDrive owner or their agent comes into it is you have to orient. It's like, what is this and what am I doing here? Like, what's the goal? Like, what and what do I need to do it? Right. So this
Hmm.
is just coming up to speed like you would if you were being onboarded into a new project as an advisor to, this person, etc. And then we have the align process, which is let's get on the same page about our goal here and what success looks like when we reach that goal, right? So we can be
Yep.
very clear on the destination that we are working towards for both ourselves as brain drive owners and so that the AI understands and can help us and partner with us to reach those goals. Then we create the plan, which is okay, we've defined the goals and what success looks like. Now let's build a plan for reaching that success. And then we have execute. Let's actually do the work to progress on these plans and move towards our goals.
Hmm.
And then finally, we have propagate. And this is let's make sure that we are taking all of the work that's been done in these stages and making sure it's updated throughout the system so that the plan is updated with the
Yep.
latest stage that we're on and can take the next step next time so that other projects that may be affected by this are updated, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so this is the operating loop, and it's around and round it goes,
Yep.
right? So
And you can
that's
have many different flavors of execute as well. That's important to think. Is like just like budgeting is just one aspect of finance. You could have investments, crypto, and it just keeps going on. So it's like the execute could be mute, almost like an octopus's tentacles.
yes, and we're going to talk about the documents that, happen, and you'll see those documents expanding here in the execute phase, like Dave's saying. So the other thing that I think it's important to understand as we go through the rest of this is there's the brain drive level,
Hmm.
which is brain drive the system, and brain drive plus one, which is the assistant that sees across all areas of your life and all projects and everything within BrainDrive. And this loop works there. Then there's the project, like the finance
Yep.
project we've been talking about. This loop works there. Then there is the app, like the budgeting app.
Yep.
This loop works there. And then there's a procedure that may be like how you handle comparing months,
Yep.
within a budget, et cetera. And this same exact loop works there. So this is that structure that we've been talking about that both the brain drive owner and the AI, once you understand it, you really understand how brain drive works at every level.
Yep.
And it should be simple enough for the average non-technical person and hopefully the average AI to be able to understand and navigate this. Okay. So then we have the memory files that drive all of this, which are all just markdown files, like Dave was talking about. And we have examples of the types of files that exist at each of these stages. So at the orient stage, we have the agent.md files, which tell the AI and the brain drive owner, if they look at it, like, who are you? What are you doing here? And where do you go to find what you need to do that
Yep.
job? Right. Then we have the me profile, which is the owner profile. And these are stable facts that are updated as you use your brain drive. that don't change a lot. So, for example, where you live, how old you are, your gender, those types of things would be the types of things that are in your me profile. And they're going to help that AI tailor its partnership to you so that, it's helping you define and reach your goals and not just a generic system for
Yep.
doing that. And then we have a README, which is in places where the agent is not taking action. Right now, we have this for like source files, for like
Yep.
statements and these types of things. And like we said, this is who you are, what you're doing, and where you go to find that. Then at the align stage, we have our spec.md, which exists within every project. And we have the interview process that is the guidelines for the AI and for the BrainDrive owner if they want to look at this of how do you run a successful interview. And that can be both for creating a spec initially and also when you want to update that spec once you've completed a goal or maybe you've changed your goals, you want to run this interview again so you can update your spec. And this is like we talked about, what are your goals and what does success look like if you reach them?
Yep.
Just for us, Dave, this used to be the spec only.
Yep.
But what I realized as we started going through the budget is we're overwriting all of the rules,
Yeah,
all
that's why
the
I was when we talked about that. I was like, that's why I was afraid to put anything in there when I was doing the
yeah.
budgeting because it just gets changed.
Right. And so now we've separated that out. And this is more of like, these are the general sections that a good spec would likely have in it. You
Yep.
don't have to stick to it, but like, this is a good starting point. And then here's the procedure document for how do you fill this out.
Okay.
Same thing with the plan.
Yep.
So this is your build plan. This is the phased plan that we're going to go through to plan out the work that needs to happen to reach these goals that we've aligned on. And now we have a separate procedure document, or at least I'm recommending we have a separate procedure document that talks about how to run and also run this plan for the first time and also update it. Okay. Uh, and then we have the execute stage. And so this is the application itself, we're calling it, which is for budgeting, that this would be your budget. If we're talking about fitness, this could be a workout plan or it could be a calorie tracker. If we're talking about career, it could be your resume or a resume builder. This is when you're actually moving towards doing the actual work of executing on your plan. And there's a lot of different files that can go here. And also, unlike this, like plans will be different for people, depending on what their goals are. Specs will be different, etc. But a spec is kind of a spec and a plan is kind of a plan. The
Yep.
apps can be pretty much anything,
Yep.
right? So this is where all the complication lives and where we're going to have to work extra, we're going to have more documents, but hopefully also working within a set of primitives so that these things are still easy to understand, easy to navigate, and easy to combine with one another and build. And then finally, we have propagate, and this is a behavior. It's not necessarily a file. I guess it could be a file that tells you how propagation works, but this is what we talked about, which is keeping the system up to date and accurate and all of that as you move along. So, and this is this concept of the fractal nature of this orient, align, plan, execute, and propagate existing at every stage of BrainDrive. When you first log in to when you go to a project to when you go to an application, it's the same loop and it can start over and go back up to the high level. If you're 8 levels deep within your BrainDrive in some application, it doesn't have to remember all the other 7 levels. It can just start fresh with the orient step at that application level and go there. And that should hopefully keep both the BrainDrive owner and the AI from becoming overwhelmed with too much context. Okay. So the app is where all the complication is. And one of the things that we were debating and may still be debating is what is an app,
Yeah.
right? And so I think from a developer standpoint, which we're using that term very loosely here because you don't need to be a coder to do this, And also from an AI standpoint, it just makes it a lot easier if an app is a folder, right? And
Yep.
some apps are simple and there may only be one or two files in there. Others are really complicated and there may be 20 different files in there. But even for the simple ones, if we follow the same structure and standard, it makes it easy for the individual to understand. It makes it easy for the AI to understand. And also, you may want to start with a very simple journal,
Hmm.
that only needs two sentences of instructions for. But as you start using it, you may want to add features and functionality to it or combine it with other things, etc. And so having the skeleton available to you to be able to do that, makes it standardized and just easier for everybody to understand. Um, so every app folder would have the orientation file, which is the agent.md file, like what is this and where, and what are you doing here and where do you find what you need to find? It would have the app file itself. This is what the BrainDrive owner uses,
Yep.
to actually do the thing. Then it can have a set of rules around what are the rules that the AI, and if the owner wants to modify it, what they should follow. And then any files that are like verbs, right? Like, okay, we need to create the budget for the first time. We want to compare the budget for the first time. And these are procedure documents for how the AI goes about doing that
Yep.
thing. So those would be, the starting files, so to speak. The orient file, which is the agent, the application itself, the rules it needs to follow, and the procedures it follows to do things. Okay. And these are all, whenever possible, natural language. But I think once we get down into the application, if there's things that just you have to do it with code, or it just makes a lot more sense to do it with code, or right now you need to do it with code because the AI can't handle it, and
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. This is where code may live, as
Yep.
well, potentially.
But for the moment, we're going with a straight English prompt.
Whenever
Yep.
possible, yeah, we want to stick with English. Um, okay. But this is where we get into where the trait, right? Okay, we can
Yep.
have it be English, which keeps it simple for everyone and follows our structure, but it doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we need to add a
Yeah.
crutch in for
Yep.
now, or maybe this is just something that should be done with code, right?
Yep. But the
So,
first thing is defining our start is always, can we do this with the AI's intelligence?
100%.
Yep.
Intelligence lives with the AI model
Yep.
whenever possible. Okay, what the architecture makes possible. We don't have this capability yet. We haven't tried to build anything with this, but hopefully the idea here would be if we follow set structure and set of standards, that these applications become composable into new features and functionality. So if I want to see, how did my net worth change, over the last month, or how might my net worth change if my budget and my income goals are hit next month,
Yep.
that could potentially combine two apps together.
Yep.
And this is going to be really cool, as well as hopefully if someone creates an application, it's going to be really easy in the future to just add that application to your brain drive because it follows the same set of standards as all the other
Yep.
applications. And then, like Dave was talking about earlier, very easy for the AI to create new apps alongside a vibe coder who doesn't really understand code, because we're following a fixed set of primitives. And these would be the three rules: apps or folders. Doers get an agent.md, and collections or sources, I think we're going to call those, we agreed upon,
Yep.
is get readmes. And you always start with the orient file. So and this is these cascading agent.md files to the readme on the source, that orients at every level the
Yep.
AI and the owner, should they wish to go to that level and look at it, to what it is, how it works, and where you go to find the things that you need to find to do it. And so over the weekend, I took the documents that we've been working on and I asked the AI to apply it to the budgeting app, and uh, basically not change any rules and procedures,
Yep.
etc., because Dave spent a lot of time on that, but just try and organize it,
Yep.
in this way. And I was doing that as I was running between, family obligations. So I didn't have time to actually sit down and like go through it line by line myself. But I did watch the AI and looked at the conversations it was having and stuff as it tested this.
Yep.
And it looked pretty good as a starting point.
Yep.
And so I created a new branch with this. And like I said in the forum post, I don't think this is just like, hey, this is ready to merge, but it's
No.
like, okay, what could this look like as a
Yep.
starting point for us to iterate on? And that these would be the next steps is let's look at it. Dave looks at it, runs the test harness through it, all that type of stuff. I'll go through it once he's run his test harness through it and give. I also didn't want to spend a lot of time manually testing it myself. If you looked at it and were like, "This is complete shit."
I did look at
Okay,
it, but
and
it was Monday.
yeah. So, and so these are the next steps.
Yep.
And I think once we get this dialed in for finance, we should be able to just really quickly start iterating and building out um new
Any app.
applications.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and people can start replacing all of the apps on their phone with their personal AI system, which is going to allow you to replace a lot of apps and hopefully save some money, but also each of those apps is going to grow in power based on the fact that it's all working off of a unified memory instead of having your data siloed across a bunch of different
Yep.
places.
Because that's how we are on phones right now. We have 15 apps for 15 things, sometimes only 13 things. We have to use multiple apps, but the data can't really jive together at any point. And with these apps, and then some things that we've already talked coming in the future, this will really come together rather nicely, I think.
Awesome. So, I think unless there's something that jumps out at you, Dave, I think the next step is now to leave that branch and the new document that I had my sort of like full, Bible document, and then I asked the AI to take that and add to the streamlined
Yep.
version that you created and also make notes about what was new and what's the same, so you could take your AI and run through that and see if there's anything that jumps out at you.
During the conversation, something did. And where you have dash rules, I think we should move to dash user as well. Because like the agent will be the agent file users as the example. We've talked about users going through and making changes and stuff like that, and how that could interrupt the update process and things of that nature. Which is the same thing can happen to any app as well. If we put in our rules where not only there's a dash rules, but there's a dash user, the user file dash user md.md, that's where the user can come through and say, hey, I want to change the rules. I want to add my own. And this way, our default brain drive exists. We can update it cleanly, not worried about user changes. And then the user can always come in and go, I'm going to make my own set. And so
Okay,
when
so
this,
this would be, if I understand
yeah,
correctly, there's two ways that you could update your brain drive as a brain drive owner. You could actually go in and change the files that we have as
yep.
defaults, right? And this would be like go at your own risk,
Yeah,
right?
you will have a divergent at some point,
Yes.
guaranteed, when this
And it's going to
happens.
be hard to do. We're working on trying to make it so you can do updates and the
Yeah,
AI is going to look at what's changed, and but that's going to be a difficult process and
yeah,
things are probably going to fall through the cracks no matter how good we are at that. What
yep,
you're saying is giving people a second option, which is leave the defaults as they are,
yep,
but add in your customizations for how you want it to work, and that way we can still update you, or you can still have the updates that the Brain Drive core
yep.
maintainers are making, and you can have the best of both worlds. You can have your
It,
cake and eat it too.
yep, exactly. And it gives us such a solid structure where we move these file rules into the very top. We were talking about what does the actual brain drive agent need to have. We can have that right there. Rules files are hardened file rules. User files are update from the rules and take precedence. And that could be just simple instructions. And that way every directory has them. We don't have to worry about mutating instructions from that. And it's just a solid entry point, I think, that we could see some good results.
I like it. So, so next, so this is now with you.
Yep.
and run through everything,
Yep.
stress test it, find the holes, all of that. And then I think also as a part of this, we talked about logging.
Yep.
So or we know, everyone knows the
Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
what's happening as
Yep.
it goes through this process, so we can then diagnose that and also start feeding that back to the AI so it can diagnose itself.
Yep. Because when we're talking about logging, it isn't more than just, hey, I did X, Y, and Z. It's when it builds that prompt from each of these individual components, we need a way for the user and for us to determine what was actually sent to that AI for instructions. And are we hitting the mark we want to hit? Are we not? Where is it going wrong? And as Dave just said, not only us, but we could even start imposing self-healing where the AI can take a look at it and go, okay, this is where I went off, and I'll clean that instruction up. And next thing you know, your system fixed itself.
Awesome. All right, great. I think that's a great point to leave the live stream today, unless there's
Yep.
anything else you want
No,
to talk about, Dave.
nope, I'm pretty good.
All right. As we talked about at the beginning of the call, our mission here is to build a superior user owned alternative to big tech AI systems. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live streamed on YouTube. And then the recordings are posted in our community forums over at community.braindrive.ai. And we'd love to have you attend and participate in either place. And with that, we'll see you next week.